In this video, I want to have just a little bit of fun with the Battle of the Sexes game by looking at a variation suggested by an episode of the TV show Mad About You. So, the stylization here, Mad About You's TV show from the 90s about Paul and Jamie, Paul Reiser and Helen Hunt. And the third episode actually is what on a Sunday morning they wake up and they Paul has had a dream that they were sitting on the couch watching TV. That's it. I'm not proud of it. Right? And Jamie's like, that's it. That's a sign we're too boring. We need to get out. We're in New York, right? We should get out and do something. So this is their plan. And now I'm simplifying the episode. A lot of other stuff happens and they consider lots of options. But two things that struck out is at one point, Paul wants to go to a Belgian film festival, right? He's like, hey, if we don't go, who will? And Jamie doesn't want to do it, but she likes the idea of going to a quilt show. And so here we have the makings of a battle of the sexes, right? So we have strategies here. Go to the Belgian Film Festival, go to the quilt show. But hey, since the whole point is they're trying to not stay on the couch, obviously staying on the couch is an option. So it's a third strategy. So we're going to add a strategy to this game, right? And see what happens. Now, the problem is we've taken a 2x2 game and turned it into a 3x3 game. So instead of having 4 outcomes, we now have 9 outcomes. And obviously these things, film fest, we'll shorten that to film, quilt show, shorten that to quilt. Obviously the strategy choices is each one decides where they're going to go. Right, and so I'm not going to go through what each option is, but film is they're both at film. Film quilt means Paul's at film, Jamie's at quilt. Right, hopefully you can follow that one. So let's look at the preferences. Now, what do we got for preferences? Well, the two things that go in here is they want to be together. Right, we're going to keep the battle of the sexes assumption that both players, the husband and wife, prefer to be together. To all options where they're together are better than options where they're apart, right? And so, but we've got the idea that Paul really wants to go to the film festival. Jamie wants to go to the quilt show, and neither of them are really excited about the other's favorite, right? So I'll assume that for Paul, right, let's go through these things. Best thing is he goes to the film festival and has Jamie go with him, right? And the numbers will turn out, it works out that that's a 6, okay? The next best thing from Paul's point of view is staying on the couch. At least he doesn't have to go to the Belgian Film Festival. Yes, they failed in their quest to get out of the house, but he doesn't have to go, and he's there with Jamie. Third best option is to go to the quilt show. At least he's out of the house, but he's with Jamie. That's what's important. So all options where they're together are at the top. Now, from here, where do we go? Well, what if he, his next best options, and I've got, him going to the film festival. Jamie's not with him in the first option, the first outcome rather. She's at the quilt show, and the second one, she's back at home on the couch. And we'll just assume he's indifferent to that. He's not with her. He's at the film show. Wherever she is, he's, it's equally, it's not as good as being with her. The next two options or outcomes are him on the couch and her not on the couch with him, right? So he's on the couch. She's at the quilt show. He's on the couch. She's at the film festival. Those are those next two outcomes. And that's a 2. The worst case scenario for him are the outcomes where he's at the quilt show and she's either on the couch or at the film festival, right? So there's our preference ordering, and we've got some indifference in here, right? But we're maintaining kind of the original idea of the battle of the sexes. And so I say, here are the numbers. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? As I've assigned those numbers. Now, Jamie, she has similar preferences. She best option is quilt show with Paul. So quilt. Next option, if she can't go, couch with Paul is better than, and being without him. And if she must go to the Belgian Film Festival, it's better to be with him at the film festival. Then after that, And remember, she's the second outcome. She's at the second thing. The second listing is her strategy choice. So film quilt means Paul's at the film festival, she's at the quilt show. Couch quilt means Paul's on the couch, she's at the quilt show. So these are the two options that where Jamie is at she's alone, but she's at her most preferred event. Then the next two is film couch, quilt couch. Again, Jamie's the second strategy in this, just arbitrarily. So these are where she's on the couch without Paul. And the last two, the worst case scenario, she's at the frickin' Belgian Film Festival without him, couch film cover. So there are our numbers, right? So now all we got to do is plug these in to the table to put the game in normal form. So here's the game in normal form, right? And so we've got, all from what we just talked about. I put in all the numbers here, and now we got to solve for Nash equilibria. And, we're going to start out just like we would with anything, with a normal battle of the sexes. We arbitrarily start with Paul, one where arrow's a little harder to see over in the border there. But if Paul chooses to go to the film festival, what's Jamie's best response? Jamie's best response is to go where he is, right? And that's the kind of the way this game is rigged. So that's our first Nash equilibrium, and that would have been a Nash equilibrium in the normal game, in the 2x2 game. And then suppose Paul goes to the quilt show. Well, Jamie would Jamie would go to the quilt show. Oh, and by the way, we need to flip the script, right? I didn't do that in the first thing here, but that you should know that by now. Hey, if Jamie goes to the quilt show, what's Paul's best response? Jamie goes to the quilt. If she restricts Paul's choices to that column, right? He's got a 3 from going to the film festival, a 4 going to the quilt show, or 2 being on the couch without her. Yeah, he'll go to the quilt show, right? So again, Nash equilibrium. Kind of rushing through that because, well, that's the normal battle of the sexes game, is that those first, that 2x2 section there. But now let's move into new territory. What if Paul decides to sit on the couch? Well, now we're restricting attention to the bottom row, and Jamie has a choice of, go to the film festival without him. Oh, well, we should do that. Go to the quilt show without him. Well, remember, the assumption is she prefers to be with him than without him. So, and there we go. It's a 5. We've already justified this when we set up the preferences. So the payoffs here show that there's a 5. So her best response is to go sit on the couch. And if she's sitting on the couch, what's Paul's would being on the couch in the first place be Paul's best response? Well, yeah, because now if we restrict attention to that last column, comparing the numbers, because Paul's numbers are first row, always goes first in these ordered pairs. You got a 3, a 1, and a 5. 5 is biggest, so yeah, best response. So we have, what we've done is we've added in another Nash equilibrium. Right, so now we have a game, and what can we say about this game? Well, we have 3 Nash equilibria. Oh, isn't that great? But, by the way, the end of the show is they end up sitting on the couch watching the Weather Channel, just like in Paul's dream, right? And because they completely failed to get out of the house on a Sunday in New York City. And so that's kind of what that third episode was about. And it was more than all of this, and maybe I'm just misremembering the quilt show, but you get the idea. The point here is that, hey, that would be a viable option, right? It's an equilibrium. So, yes, staying on the couch is, viable. We haven't really done much, though. There's a cautionary tale here. We haven't really done much. We've added another equilibrium. And so, yes, staying home based on all these assumptions, that's another option. But it's not Pareto superior to the Nash equilibria that we had before, right? Everyone is taking a second, it's basically, they're settling for second best. Someone's settling, right? But given that, it's a Nash equilibrium, given that the other person chose to stay on the couch, that's their best response. And so we still have this thing of, hey, commitment problem. Whoever says, I'm sitting on the couch, the other one's best response is to go with them. So it's still the same situation. And we have not added any real insight. We have, we verified that it's a plausible ending, that the show, didn't make, the ending of the show doesn't violate anything. It's not illogical, right? And what would it violate? It would violate the logic of the situation as analyzed through game theory. We haven't really added anything, right? And so the cautionary tale is we went from 4 outcomes to 9. And, going through, it was a little bit more difficult. We are on the on-ramp to chaos theory, right? And one of the things that bedevils all formal modeling is that as you add complexity, you add it can explode on you. This is a very baby step. It hasn't gone crazy, but we went from 4 to 9 outcomes, right? And if we added a 4th strategy choice, we'd have 16. It's a square root. It's an exponential. We're going to exponentially increase the complexity as we add strategies in. And do we get anything from it? So not really, but it does show you, I hope, and again, apologies for being pedantic, but it's my job. It does show, hey, how you can take something, change something, say what if, and do an analysis. And, we didn't get any startling results here, but it does show you where you go. But also we have that, like I say, the cautionary tale of, hey, it gets complex, it gets out of hand. I guess, chaos theory, that escalated quickly. I never realized we could use that there, but yeah, that's our problem. So hope you've, hope this is interesting. Go watch the episode. It's available on Prime. And find out that I've totally misremembered something and make fun of me if you want, right? That might be the best thing you get out of it. But I hope you've seen what we can do and the troubles about complexity and thwarting our efforts in the end.